Hello, everyone, and welcome to the linear versus nonlinear lecture for computer editing. So let's get you a better version of that lecture. So first things first, though, going over something I already covered, but just want to make sure you guys know this, is that the handouts. Oh, let me pop this up. The handouts for the lectures are located in the content section, so all you have to do is go to Blackboard. This is the home page, and go down to content, and the lectures will be in this area. So just want to make sure that you know that. So getting to the lecture of linear versus nonlinear. So some things to go over. Before that are the production and post-production. But yeah, basically linear versus nonlinear is kind of like a little backtracking into the history of editing, where it was, and some advantages of the old ways and versus some advantages of the new ways. And the linear isn't completely dead, so it is something that those of you who go into news and actually maybe edit some stuff out in the field, you may need to know this. So anyway, oh, I didn't pop this down. So getting to the post-production versus and post-production editing. Post-production is basically what you do after you get done shooting. So if you plan some type of commercial shoot, find locations and all that, actually shooting the commercial, having people saying their lines and all that stuff, then when you get it back to wherever you edit, that's when you're in the post-production stage. So yeah, most of that is editing, video editing, but some of it may be cleaning up some audio, or maybe adding some subtitles or something like that. Post-production editing is basically editing after whatever that event may be. So the two categories of post-production editing: linear, nonlinear. That's what this whole lesson is about. So with linear, that's when you have to edit. It's linear, and meaning like in a line. Okay, so when you have to edit a project in the chronological order of how you want that project to go. So you can't be shuffling clips around on a timeline, and you just have to do it exactly where the beginning is at the beginning, the middle is in the middle, and the end is at the end. So the reason why it has to be like that is because it's tape based. So if you know anything about VHS tapes or cassette tapes, you know that once something is on there, it can't be shuffled around. Same thing with putting video on a tape. So that's the reason why it has to go in chronological order. Some of the things that are needed, and you'll see an image of this, a source deck, basically a deck to put your raw footage tape into. Your record deck, which is where you those pieces of video that you want to use from your source deck, you select them and they get recorded onto the tape in your record deck. Your editing console, kind of like, is how you shuffle back and forth between decks. And yes, of course, it finally goes into a tape format. So this is an example of an old video editing console. Just to go over a few things about this, yeah, there's a lot of buttons, but what you really need, you're not going to be using all these buttons. You may be using about, I don't know, 10 of 40 or however many are up here. So this is what they call the jog shuttle wheel. And what that does is it allows you to fast forward and rewind. It also lets you, and it also allows you to go frame by frame. This little indentation right here is for you to actually stick your finger in, and you just like turn it slowly when you want to go frame by frame. A frame is 1/30th of a second. So in a lot of instances. So it allows you to be very specific with your editing. So another few things just to mention. The V stands for video. So when you want to take the video, but say maybe you don't want to take the audio, you only push the video button. And same things with the audio tracks. And yes, videotapes actually have 4 layers of audio. So one way that can be helpful is if you wanted music and someone talking. So you can have those set at different levels, and also maybe not, and have both of them being edited at the same time. Let's see. Marking in is where you say you rewind a tape, you see the beginning of where you want your video to start, you mark in. You fast forward, and happens on your source deck, to where you want the video to end, you press mark out. So that's how you select what you want to edit. And this particular console, with some of them, they have like just a plain edit button or a preview edit, but I don't see that one on this particular model. So when you put all this together, it looks something like this. So this is your source deck right here, and this is the monitor for it. This is your record deck, and this is the monitor for it. Excuse me. And this is your editing console. So it takes quite a bit of equipment to get this done, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were like maybe some type of sound board or something nearby. But anyway, so the way that linear editing still lives today is with these little editing briefcases. So this is mainly used for broadcast news. So I don't know, maybe some sporting events, if they wanted to do like a replay, I could see if they wanted to edit some replays together and have them ready to go into break. I don't know if this was a remote type thing, then maybe. But anyway, the reason why it is designed like this and to be carried and all that is because so that reporters or photogs can actually edit footage while out in the field, and it may be broadcast live very shortly after it gets done. So in that instance, you don't have time to, say, export video. What I mean by exporting is that with nonlinear, even when you're completely done, it still takes time to actually export or kind of compile all that and make it into a file that can be played. So that can take a lot of time. I'm trying to think, like usually when I'm exporting video after the whole project's done, I usually give myself about 2 to 3 times the length of the project. So, and in some instances you may not have that amount of time. You just need to be able to, once you make that last edit, spit the tape out, plug it into however you're going to transmit the video, whether it's they have things called satellite trucks or microwave trucks and other ways of delivering video without having to actually physically drive it. Anyway, once you get done with that last edit, you may just want to pop the tape out and just start, transmitting it however you can. So in that instance, it's basically done instantly. So, and with news, there's a lot of time and deadline pressure, and this is actually a lot faster in getting it done. So you wouldn't edit, say, I don't know, a documentary or a movie on anything like this. This is primarily using just cuts only. So like an instantaneous transition from one shot to the other. So yeah, it's a no frills editing way of doing things and getting them out very quickly. So with nonlinear, it does allow you to shuffle the shots around. So if you have something, maybe you're working on a documentary and you have an interview that you thought would be good at one particular location, you, I don't know, maybe get halfway through or a quarter through through your project, and you realize, oh, this person would be better used, I don't know, later on. Well, guess what? You can actually highlight those clips, hold them, and drag them into the part of the project where you want it to go, and it's pretty much that easy. But anyway, so Nonlinear allows you to do that, allows you to do a lot of editing effects. There's so many things that Nonlinear that editing allows you to do, and we'll go through more of that as we go through the course. But for right now, the most obvious one is that it allows you to rearrange your shots, which if you've ever been locked into a linear way of editing, that right there is, you know, that right there is enough reason to, you know, switch to Team Nonlinear. So yeah, you can call up the shots regardless of its chronological order. Also, what that means is, with a tape-based system like linear, if you're, say you've got an hour's worth of footage and you picked a clip that occurs in, say, minute 45, but the next clip you want to use occurs at minute 15, guess what? You have to rewind 30 minutes to get to that spot. Now, it doesn't take 30 minutes to rewind, but you still have to go through the rewinding process to get to that clip, okay? And Nonlinear, you just have like a list of clips, and you just click on whichever one you want to use next. So, and of course, you can slide that into whatever order you want to on the timeline, or in Final Cut Pro 10 terms, onto the project. So, video information, it's got to be stored on hard drives because, well, it's video information. It has to be stored somewhere. So video must be encoded. It's usually, these days with editing programs, it usually happens so fast you almost don't even think about it. Maybe the audio takes a little more time to it just interprets it before it puts it into the program. Oh, and of course you got to have a nonlinear editing system. Just because you have a great computer, you know, the most expensive computer or whatever, doesn't mean that editing software automatically comes with it. In most cases, unless you buy it from a specific seller that offers to do some type of service like that, you're not going to have anything better than, I don't know, Windows Movie Maker. So this is an example of a typical nonlinear editing screen. So most of them follow this format. They have your clip bin also, and a lot of them, your effects can also be in this window. I don't know if you can see this little tab right here, but this little slightly grayer tab is for your effects. And this is a Final Cut Pro 6, I believe, but Adobe Premiere, which is kind of like they're battling back and forth for which one is the #1 editing program. You know, has this same setup. You know, it's got clips, and it's got a way that you can get to your effects from a very similar tab. So this is your preview window. This is the clips. Say you double click on a clip right here, you want to see what it looks like. Bam, it shows up in this location right here. So you can look at it and decide if you want to use it, or you can maybe just mark, use an in point and out point to decide, hey, I only want to use this much of that clip, and then slide it down to your timeline. Once it gets down to your timeline, then it appears in this window, your program window. So as you're playing through your timeline, this will match. So if you want something in your project and you thought it was in the project, but you don't see it in this window right here that's on the right, then it's not in the project. So it represents what's on this timeline. See, a few other things those are the main things that you need to know. These are your audio meters. This is your tool bin, but sometimes, depending on the project, it shows up in different areas. It might be over might be over here, might be at the top, might be over on this side. So, but one way, to definitely recognize it is, say, the razor blade tool. That's what, and the select tool, which is the little arrow thing. Those are two very common ones that you'll see a lot of the time. Moving on to a closer look. So on the timeline, there's usually like some type of equator line that separates the video from the audio. It's not all, video isn't always going to have like a little blue bar, but this thick line here usually separates, is the one way that you can tell the video is separated from the audio. And this is your audio. These little spikes are what they call like waveform. It kind of represents the level of the sound in the audio. And this right here, you see where it says, I don't know if you can see it, V1 stands for your video, and you can stack video on top of video on top of video. So you can stack layers of video, which definitely happens in nonlinear quite often. And you can do the same thing with your audio. It's A1, A2, A3. And say you didn't want to hear one of these, you could just click this little button right here to deactivate that clip. So it basically makes it so that you wouldn't be hearing it. So if you needed to hear something else better, or for video, if you were looking at video that had some other type of video over it, maybe like I don't know, a lower third, a little name super, and you didn't want to see the name super, you could press the little green button, deactivate that, and see that image without the name super. Oh, wow. So, about to wrap this thing up. Wow. Okay, so, excuse me. So, to hit some of the main points of linear versus nonlinear. So, with linear, you have to fast forward or rewind to get to the desired footage. Yes, that can be very annoying. So, like I told you before, if you're at minute 45 of something, you need to go back to 15 or minute 2. You got to fast forward and rewind every single time you want to get to some footage. So it'd be like having to run across, I don't know, different parts of a big building every time you needed something. So imagine if, I don't know, I'm probably talking too much, but imagine if you were trying to, I don't know, make a meal in a kitchen, but I don't know, the kitchen was the size of a football field. It would get really annoying every time you need to go get something from the refrigerator, get something from a cabinet, whatever, and you got to go about the length of a football field in order to get it. It's tiring, just that alone. So anyway, nonlinear, you just click on a clip in your clip bin, kind of like if you were making a playlist. Or whether it's for MP3s or maybe something else, maybe a video playlist, I don't know, for a YouTube channel or something. You just basically click on your clip and just slide it in the order that you want. With linear, yeah, you have to do it exactly in the order that you want it to be. So usually when you're editing linearly, you have to have your you already have to have an idea of what your project is going to look like from the very first edit to the very end. So there's not a lot of space or freedom to be getting, say, halfway during something decide that you want to shake it up a little bit. No, you pretty much have an idea before you even get started, because you don't want to have to try and correcting something in linear editing is very, very difficult, because when you are, say you want to replace a piece of video, you have to rewind on your record deck to the very frame of where that video started, or you have to go a little bit before that, and you would end up cutting out some of the previous video to mark your end point. So if you do that wrong, if you say mark your end point and it's too far after where it needs to be, even if it's by one frame, 1/30th of a second, if you miss that spot, then there's going to be a little flash of the video that you meant to record over, and that is definitely not the professional. That's not a professional look. Okay, so you don't want that happening. So most times you've already got all your whole project already thought out before you even make the edit. Maybe you play around with the B-roll a little bit, but anyway, yeah, nonlinear editing, you can shift the order around a little bit, so into whatever order that you think works best. Linear editing only works with tape, so yeah, you're gonna be, yeah, you're not even putting, well, maybe if you have video of a picture, you could have that, but no, you're not working with JPEGs, GIFs, none of that. It's just, it's just tape. Yeah, with nonlinear editing, your video it has to go into some type of storage device. So your video is stored on the computer hard drive, or maybe if you're using a portable hard drive or a flash drive, and when you output it, it usually goes to a file. Now, if you want to burn it to a DVD or something like that, there's programs for that, but mainly we're just going to be focusing on, you have a project, you need to output it to some type of file. Then you can upload it to YouTube, burn it to a DVD, do whatever you want to with it. So with linear editing, you don't have to worry about, say, the format of the video or how long it takes to transcode so that the computer can use it. You just basically pop it in and you're ready to go. With nonlinear, sometimes you have to take a little bit of time just to worry about that before you can actually start editing. Let's see. Oh, some things required. We talked about the source deck, record deck, editing console. Source deck is where you put your raw video in. Record deck is when you pick those clips from the source deck and you record it to something that goes to the record deck. And the editing console is what allows you to move between one deck and the other and pick certain parts and add it to certain parts of your record tape. Nonlinear, you have to have an editing program. It's just, yeah, there's no getting around that. Yeah, something that I think is kind of cool, that a lot of programs are adding a little bit of editing to it. So like even YouTube allows you to do some simple editing where you can like at least cut out a clip or something. So linear editing, video source, tape. It's always going to be tape. It's going to start with tape. It's going to end with tape. Now with nonlinear, you can use anything pretty much. If it can be put into a digital format, you can probably use it in nonlinear editing. Even, I don't know if you guys know about PDF files, when you get like an office type job or whatever, yeah, you're gonna know what PDF files are. But what could you do? You could probably take a screen capture of a PDF file on your computer, and then have that as a JPEG or something, and then people could see maybe that particular document or whatever. Anyway, but yeah, you can use tape. Yes, you can actually play tape and basically capture it into a computer program. You can use DVDs. You can lift files from there. Storage media, flash drive or wherever, or SD card. You can just plug those in. Just got to find the right, yeah, you can just plug that in and use that as well. So you've got a lot more freedom with what you can use in a nonlinear editing program, or nonlinear editing program. So that is it, and I hope this was understandable to you. And if you got any questions or something, I guess let me know. Or just bring it up next time you see me in person or whatever. So anyway, take care. Bye-bye.